Hey everyone, in this lesson, I'm going to walk you through the process for creating a sort of stacked form where when your users click next upon next, then essentially the questions just collapse on top of each other and it follows a logical sequence. So let me show you exactly what it is that we're talking about. So let's say that I enter a value here. So type in some test content there, and I just hit next again and hit next and next. And then I eventually see a submit button, something like that. This is actually fairly easy to get set up within your Bubble application. And in terms of getting that squared away, let me go ahead and actually delete one of our boxes here so I can walk you through the process of setting things up. So for our form here, basically what I've done is I've created a couple of different group elements on the page. So, and they're all contained within this element of group E. So I have my first question here, which is sitting snugly right on top of the second question. And then we'll go ahead and add in our third question. So some of the things to just take a look at when we're looking at this is that I have the collapse this element's height when hidden option checked for each of these. So that way our boxes are actually going to shrink in height when they are no longer necessary. And we also threw in the collapse operation here. Right now it's just set to slide up and down, but I'm going to go ahead and change that to fade in and fade out so you can get a picture of what the other action looks like. Okay, and now let's go ahead and just take what we had here and we'll go ahead and mimic it for our group C. So this action here that I have for the start edit workflow, this is just a really simple action, which is going to advance us through which question is visible. Now, you might have thought it's like, well, why don't I just have this action be set to a hide this group operation? So using hide the group would be perfectly fine to do, except when you want to give the user the ability to move backwards through these questions, it might be a little bit easier to just maintain a state value so you know exactly which thing to reference and you set things up based on that. So by using a state value, which is just referencing a number, it makes things a little bit easier for us to follow. And if we're looking for that state, so the question visible on the stacked form. So we'll go ahead and draw our other group here. So we'll go ahead and copy this with workflows. And we'll do a paste with workflows operation here. And just drop that in our group here. Go ahead and give it some color. So this advances to 2. So when I click next, this advances to 2. And when I click this next, it advances to 3. So on this one, when we click on it, we'll want to update this to 4. So that's going to update our value there. And if we'd want to say, add in a button here just for kicks, if we want to give them the ability to go hit the previous. So we'll say previous might be a set state action there. So we'll do a set state and we'll go ahead and choose from where. So the state is just set up on the page there. And we'll just say the question visible. So it's going to be the stacked forms question visible value -1. So let's go ahead and give that a try. And of course, we might want to set up some conditional logic and not have that shown when our first question is there. So, oops, looks like I need to do a little bit more work there. Let's see what we've got going on here. So I've got that one is 4, this one is 3, this one is 2. And let's go ahead and make sure that this is set to not be visible on page load and fade in, fade out. Oh, it was looks like I forgot to update, of course, our state values over here. So apologies for not covering that before. So the way in which we control whether these are visible or not is based on just a reference to that state value on the page. So we're saying when the form's state value is 1, then this is visible. And when this isn't visible, then, or when the state value isn't this thing, then don't be visible. Okay, and let's just go ahead and add in a logic point here to say when the stack forms question visible is 1, this element is visible is no. And we can go ahead and invert our logic here to say is not 1, this is visible. Okay, and great. So let's go ahead and preview what we've got here. Hopefully things work correctly this time around. Okay, so we hit next and next there, and we can go ahead and previous. Now you'll notice that the animation doesn't look as smooth when we're doing this operation. And part of the reason is because when we're using fade in and fade out, both of these things are becoming true at the same time. So our fade in operation is happening at the same time as our fade out for the previous element is happening. So if you are using an animation in this sort of fashion, either what I would recommend is you instead use the slide up down operation, and just you can set it to that for each of these. Or if you were to do it, you might actually abstract things out a little bit and have an explicit hide operation and then a explicit show operation for the groups side by side, which makes things a little bit less modular, but if that's what you're going for, then that's how I would recommend it. So let's go ahead and just preview it one last time and see what we've got. Okay, and so notice now it's a fairly fluid operation and things move smoothly through each of those different groups there. So otherwise, this is the sort of logic that you can employ in different aspects of your building. So if you're looking at, you want to collapse different things, maybe within a profile or a given group, you can use it for just being able to consolidate information and make things a little bit easier. You don't necessarily need to use this logic for the perspective of a stacked form. But as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and otherwise, happy building.